And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. We're joined in studio by Congressman Raul Labrador. Congressman Labrador, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
First and foremost, you've been home for 2 weeks. Have you missed Washington, D.C.? And as everybody knows, you worked very hard to get the president elected. You've worked with the president on a lot of issues, most of which probably a lot of us don't know how close you are with the president. So, A, do you miss Washington? And B, what do you make of what's going on out there, sir?
Well, I never miss Washington when I'm in Idaho. I've been home with the family for the holidays. I have all my kids home from college. Obviously, my 2 kids that are in high school they're home for the holidays. They're not in school right now. So we've been having a really wonderful time. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, and it's been great to also meet with constituents and to do a little bit of work in the state. You know, Washington, D.C. is interesting right now. We have a lot of things that are going on in Washington, D.C. where we're trying to get some work done, and it seems that as the president continues to have more and more victories, that the media keeps coming after him more and more. Indeed,
and we could spend hours and hours on that. Let's talk about Idaho. And that you've chosen not to do 1 but 2 jobs. You're running for governor. Your thoughts on being home, and it's not like time off, and even if you weren't running for governor, you'd be working. It seems like the job never ends. Now you want to be Idaho's next governor.
You know, it's been a really amazing opportunity to go out around the state, to talk to the people of Idaho and talk to them about my conservative vision for the state. I believe we live in a beautiful state. Everyone loves this state. That's why we all live here. But we also know that it can be more, that it can be better, that it can be stronger. We know that as you look at the future of the state, I do this as I have 3 kids in college. And I worry about their future. Are they going to be able to find good jobs in Idaho? Are they going to have high-paying jobs? Are they going to have the quality of life that they want for their kids and for their family? I'm going to be a grandfather here pretty soon in the next 3 months. I'm very excited about that. And I really worry about the future of Idaho, because I think we've had governors for the last little while that have done some good things, but they haven't had a vision for the state. Where do they want the state to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now? We just seem to go from crisis to crisis or from moment to moment, but we don't really think about what kind of economy do we want. Do we really want to be one of the states that has the lowest wages, as we are right now? Do we really want to be one of the states that has the most minimum wage jobs in America? We don't want to continue to be that way. We need to have the kind of economy where good jobs are being created, where good companies are coming to the state, where the companies in the state are staying in the state and growing and thriving. And that's why yesterday I came up with I unveiled my economic plan to strengthen Idaho's economy. And in this economic plan, we look at sharply reducing taxes for families and companies and businesses. We look at reforming government programs. We have too many government programs in Idaho that prop up one business over another. We look at reforming many of the things that we're doing in the state, and we're really excited about this economic plan and what it shows that we can do in the state of Idaho.
Congressman Labrador joining us, talking about his economic plan. It's like the Herman Cain thing? I remember you referencing this before. So
yeah, it's a 555, I call it, and I did steal that from Herman Cain. I thought it was effective. What we need to do, if you look at Idaho right now, we have the most Republican legislature of any of our neighbors, and yet we have the highest taxes of any of our neighbors. We are at 7.4% in corporate and individual. We're at 6% in sales tax. And what I want to do is I want to reduce our taxes to 5% corporate, 5% individual, and 5% sales tax. The state of Utah did this about 25 years ago. They decided that they were going to revamp their entire tax system, and they were going to get rid of all the loopholes that they had in their tax code. They were going to broaden the base, and they were going to reduce the taxes. What that brought about in Utah was an unprecedented growth. And I think we can do the same thing. And I think it's important to know that And you need to broaden the base. You do need to get rid of the loopholes. But we can make it easier for companies to come to Idaho. I talked to too many businesses, and I ask them why they're not willing to come to Idaho. And they tell me that it's a beautiful state, the people are great, there's great quality of life, great families, but that the taxes are too high. And they look for other states that have lower taxes where they can actually grow and make their products.
Congressman Labrador joining us at KIDO Talk Radio, talking about his campaign for governor, his economic vision. Let's get back to something that, Congressman, you fought for people as a state representative, you fought for people as an attorney, and here on one hand, not to go too John Edwards on you, but we're almost going to a case of two Americas, two Idahoans, where we have the wages repressively low, and yet we have people building these $500,000-$600,000 homes as if they were $80,000 homes all over the place. And I look around and I think to myself, well, who's going to buy these homes? And again, people moving in and retiring, but I mean, you have people with families, you have people that really want to live that Idahoan dream, and again, how can they afford these homes?
Well, that's a great question. What we want the economy to grow in Idaho so everyone can afford good homes. I don't know that everyone can afford a $500,000-$600,000 home. But the problem that we have is we keep bragging about how we're the fastest growing state in the nation, which is true. But we're also the state that has the most minimum wage jobs in the nation. We're the state that has our per capita income is one of the lowest. In fact, I had to laugh the other day because one of the reporters in Idaho keeps saying that we don't need to cut taxes because we have the lowest amount of taxes that are being paid in the United States. And I'm like, hello,
right?
We have the lowest amount of taxes paid in the United States because we have the lowest incomes in the United States.
Right.
They don't seem to follow that logic. So what we need to do is create an environment where government is getting out of the way, where businesses are thriving, where businesses are doing well, and then we can create high-wage jobs and high opportunities.
I guess that was my point, sir,
Yeah.
is that you want people to be able to afford to live in this state. And again, if elected, you're going to have to deal with the educational issue. You got teachers. We're losing teachers all the time.
Absolutely.
To other states, we're losing law enforcement. And so, again, not everybody can live in the $500,000 or $600,000 homes, but they should be able to own a home.
Absolutely. I think everyone should be able to own a home. Everyone should have an opportunity. Every student should have a meaningful opportunity after high school. And our education plan is going to come in a few weeks, and we will talk a little bit about that in the future. But I have always believed that every student should have a meaningful opportunity. We hear our leaders right now, they keep talking about forcing kids to go to college and making sure that kids go to college. And there's other opportunities out there. There's high-paying jobs in different industries that do not necessarily require a college education. And I think we need to start helping our high school students and even younger understand all the meaningful opportunities that are out there for them so they can go out and get good jobs, so they can do things that they want. And some of them will require college education, like my education. I had to go to college. I wanted to become a lawyer. I went to postgraduate school to become a lawyer. But not everyone has to do that to be successful and thrive in life.
No, not at all. And again, the trades need a champion. Let's go to Steve with Congressman Labrador at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm just driving home right now, but I had a question, because Congressman Labrador is talking about ways to raise wages. Would it be a thought to bring up, the right to work again and, put that up for a vote to maybe help raise wages?
Well, that's a very good point, Steve, when you're talking about the idea of raising wages. I mean, should that happen organically, or should that be the state government's role?
That's a great question, and I like the fact that we're a right-to-work state, and I think that we should keep it that way, and that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't think it's the government's role to raise wages. The government's role is to get out of the way so we can let the economy thrive and survive. We need to create an environment where jobs are being created, where good, high-paying jobs are being created. That's why I want to cut taxes. That's why I want to work on phasing out the personal property tax on businesses. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to end favoritism in economic development, something that the Idaho legislature has been doing for the last few years, which I completely disagree with, is that they create these programs where they give money to specific companies. So instead of giving tax breaks to everyone, they pick winners and losers. It's almost a pay-to-play kind of system where we allow the government to pick favorites and decide which companies are going to receive tax breaks. I don't think we should ever do that. I think we should treat all the companies the same, all the businesses the same, all the families the same, and let let people thrive. If government gets out of the way, the people will thrive, businesses will thrive, and you will see the economy just grow.
Oh, okay, and I do have one more question for you, sir. I actually live in a rural county here in Idaho, and
where do you live?
I live just outside of Council.
Okay.
So, right up here, our town's basically dying because there's hardly an economy. Do you have an idea for like an economic recovery plan for some of the rural areas of Idaho?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because most of us, and I'll just raise my hand, we seem to be spoiled. We're Treasure Valley centric,
Yes.
but you've traveled the state. You've known the state for years. What about these small towns?
No, that's a great question. One of the things that we need to do is allow we need to fight the federal government a little bit on this and give these rural communities the ability to forge their own destiny. It's one of the reasons that when in Congress I have been fighting so much for us to have the opportunity to use our natural resources. And as governor, I will continue to do that. I will continue to make sure that these local rural communities have the ability to use their natural resources, their mining, their timber, so they can create jobs. This is what we were just talking about. Not every good job requires a college education. Mining, timber, and some of these industries actually have some high-paying jobs, but the federal government continues to get in the way of the community to do that. So I'm going to be fighting. That's one of the planks of my economic plan, is to make sure that we make the federal government as inconsequential in our lives as possible. We need to reduce the reliance on the federal government from the state, and then we can let these communities thrive.
All right, Steve, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Let's go to an old favorite. Pro-Life joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah, Raul, up in Moscow now there's a doctor starting to perform transgender surgeries, and this applies to that, and also the taxpayers of the United States pay for transgender surgeries through the military. The military, if you claim you're transgender, and the military will take care of your operations, your counseling, and your chemicals that cause you to do that. I'm against all of that, of course, and I'm sure that you are too. If you were the governor, would you sign a law banning transgender counseling, chemicals, and surgery in Idaho?
Well, I don't know that I can sign a law banning counseling in Idaho.
Would that be up to the legislature to do that?
Yeah, but I don't think we can ban counseling in Idaho. The question is whether the government should be paying for it. And that's a different question. If a doctor wants to do that kind of counseling, I disagree with it, but I don't think the government should be paying for transgender surgeries and things like that. But with that, I may disagree with you a little bit, but I don't think we should be telling doctors what counseling they should be doing.
All right, Pro-Life, we appreciate it. More with Congressman Labrador next. Let's talk more about the economy, his plan for Idaho, and, of course, his run for the governorship. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
KID.
And we continue on with Congressman Labrador, Kevin Miller in the morning. Is there ever any off time for you before we get back to the phone calls at 580-5436? You just don't wave a magic wand and these economic plans come up. You've got your job in Congress. You're in hearings holding the Department of Justice accountable. You're coordinating a campaign. And wherever you go, everybody knows you. So is there ever an off switch? How do you personally handle that?
The time that I do two things where I turn it off. I like going to movies a lot. So movies, I love movies because no one bothers you.
Are you sure no one comes up and says,
No,
hey?
when you're in the middle of the movie, nobody bothers you.
Right.
You're watching the movie. You can escape,
Right.
and you can just watch the movie. And also going to my kids' sports games.
Right.
When I go to my kids' sports game, I've been to several this week and last week. And that's a great opportunity for me to just escape and to talk. I talk to the parents that are there, but we're talking about sports.
Right.
We're talking about the team. We're talking about, do we like the coach? Do we not like the coach? Do we, are the players doing well? Are they not doing well? That's always kind of fun.
And before we get back to more of the phone calls and your plan, as someone who has made their career as a public servant, there are two passions. You have politics, governance, and sports. I wonder if we could ever kind of convey what you just talked about, that sports vibe where everybody has a team, everybody feels invited to talk about. There's a certain unifying vision in sports that sometimes in politics we seem to miss.
I know, and it's difficult because in politics everybody's an individual, and in sports you have team sports where you're all kind of going in the same direction, and in politics you have more of an individualistic mentality, but you also have an issue where you need to trust the people that are in charge. And that's why I think, it's one of the reasons I'm running for governor. I think you need somebody that has proven that they're going to be a reliable, solid conservative in the things that they do, and they're going to keep their word. Because I think what most people are missing in politics is somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can look to and say, you know what, I don't always agree with that person, but I know that they're at least going to do the things that they said they were going to do. And that's actually the best compliment I get from people in the state of Idaho. I have a lot of people who disagree with me, even Democrats who will come up to me and say, I don't really like your politics, but I have always liked your consistency. I've always liked the things that you say, you actually do. You follow through on your promises, and you follow through. I had somebody yesterday tell me that, they heard what I said 8 years ago when I ran for Congress, and they didn't believe it because they thought it was just political rhetoric. And they're happy to report now that 8 years later they can say that, the things that I said 8 years ago are the things that I'm doing today. And I think that's what Idaho needs. Idaho needs a governor with a vision who follows through on the issues that are important to the people and who actually keeps his promises. And that's what I promised the people of Idaho that I'm going to do. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to really do public service. Our office, I'm proud of our congressional office because of all the service that we do. And some of it, is stuff that people just don't even know about. How we help veterans and we help other people. And I think government should be about serving the people, not just about making political points, but about actually serving the people that elected you.
Well, and my mom used to work in constituent services, and that's the bread and butter of Congress and the House and the Senate. Let's get to traffic and weather together at 580. And let's get to your phone calls with Congressman Labrador. We go to Cindy in Caldwell, one of your, if not your biggest supporter, right there in the top three. Good morning, Cindy.
Well, Kevin, you know what? I just want to thank you for your clemency because as Lars Larson said, I think it's a privilege to be able to talk to you two. I have been by the White House, not in the White House, but I consider it a privilege to be able to talk on your show, and I would just like to thank our representative for, number one, I liked what you said. I know you had 9 conservative politicians in this state just so on board with you, sir. From last night, I was at a legislative preview, and they all speak to the issues and your vision for our state, sir. But I really want to thank you because already you are supporting our veterans because something you just said, I have 2 college degrees, several. I'm also a registered nurse. But for the tradespeople out there, I thank you that you said that people can have a viable occupation. I'm so glad that you're open to, how can we get more, electricians, mechanics, all kinds of other jobs that not necessarily can you be productive and you can have input into this state, business-wise, but even working at Jiffy Lube and all these other places. I see my mechanic as like a cardiologist. I don't understand. I love NASCAR. So thank you for understanding that for this state and the vision for, helping people out here, that those people that necessarily aren't given to go to college, that you are on board for really opening up in education avenues that people can use their gifting best.
Well, Cindy, that's a great point. We appreciate it. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We broke the rule. She called in at 6, and I said, well, you can call back because you're always talking about Congressman Labrador, but your thoughts on the vision here?
Well, she's absolutely right. In fact, that's one of the planks of my economic development platform, which is to develop a workforce for our future. We need to make sure, one of the things that we have in Idaho is the Workforce Development Training Fund. And that money keeps going to the companies that need it. And what we want to do is we want to change it so it goes to the individual. So individuals can start understanding that they can use it for training so they can improve their lives. And we need to do something to encourage people to actually go beyond high school and get good jobs and get the education that they need. One of my favorite people is Mike Rowe, who always you know who Mike Rowe is.
Dirty Jobs, yes.
Dirty Jobs. And he talks about all the jobs that are out there that are going unfilled because people are not willing to take the little bit of training to do that, or they don't know that those jobs are available. And I want to make sure that we have a Mike Rowe in Idaho that goes around the state and talks to the high school, talks to the students, and lets them understand that there are jobs available. Like she talked about being a mechanic, being a plumber. One of my biggest supporters, who's one of the wealthiest men in the state, is a plumber because he decided to build a business that now is one of the biggest, most thriving businesses in the state. There are so many opportunities out there for people, and what we need to do is let them show them the way, show them that there's enthusiasm out there for their future, and that they have somebody who believes in them, and they have somebody who believes that they can actually make a big difference in the future, and that we're willing to stand by them.
Congressman Labrador joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. When we're thinking of the issue here, lots to talk about. And again, Congressman, you're getting ready to go back to Washington. Your thoughts, and again, I still don't know how you're going to do this, running the campaign. And, the phones are ringing off the hook here, as you can hear, and doing your day job.
Do you want me to pick it up? I can do a third job, too. Right. I have 2 full-time jobs right now, and I find it funny when people say that maybe I'm not working too hard on one or the other. I spend 80 hours a week in Washington, D.C., doing the things that I do, and then I come home to spend 40 hours working on this job. But I love what I do.
Right.
I love serving the people of Idaho. I have a wonderful wife who is putting up with this schedule that I have right now, and she's supporting me. And I couldn't do it without her, and I couldn't do it without the support of my family.
That's a lot of sacrifice.
It is, but she's wonderful, and she, as long as what she tells me is when I'm home, I need to pay attention to the kids. I need to put the phone down. I need to make sure that we're having family dinner, that we do. As long as I do those things, and I don't always do it as well as I should.
Now, wait a minute. With all due respect, when the president calls.
I do pick up the phone, but when other things happen, I try to to be present with the family and present in my job and do all the things that I do, and I'm just grateful for all the support that I have, the great staff that I have, and all the people that support me.
You can hang for a little while?
Sure.
Okay. More with Congressman Labrador next. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, Congressman Labrador joining us. Congressman, we have a lot of people that would like to speak with you, but before that, more of your thoughts on your economic plan for the state if elected.
Well, the state needs to look at the spending as well, how much we're spending. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the budget, and we're going to look at the areas in government spending where we shouldn't be spending money, areas where maybe some of the agencies are doing work that the legislature has not even given them the authority. What happens with government agencies and with bureaucracies is they just keep growing and growing and growing just to justify their existence. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tell each agency head, first I'm going to ask every agency head to turn in their resignation and to reapply for the job and make sure that they understand that their number one priority is to make sure that they're going to serve the people of Idaho, and they're going to look for government waste, and they're going to look for ways to reduce the spending curve that we have had over the last few years. Our state government has been growing at a faster rate than our economy, and we need to stop that. But we also need to make sure that we take care of regulations, that we do things that are important so the economy can grow and the people can thrive.
And we go back to the phones. We go to Mark in Boise with Congressman Labrador at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning. Good morning, Mark.
Yeah, good morning. I had a question about why the congressman thinks Idaho does have the lowest minimum wage and the lowest income around the nation, even though, we're economically, we are thriving right now. We are the fastest growing state in the nation, yet he cites those two statistics. I'm curious why he thinks that is the case.
Because that is what all the economic indicators in Idaho show, that we have a high number of minimum wage jobs. A lot of the jobs that are being created in Idaho are in the service industry, and we don't have as many of the higher manufacturing or high-tech jobs that need to be created in the state. Just look at all the economic data for the state, and it will show you that even though the state is growing at a good rate, and I agree with that, it's the fastest growing state in the nation. Our economic indicators show that we're at the bottom of all the economic indicators, and we need to be much better.
Right. And my question is, why is that? And
why?
My theory is that the jobs come where you have the best workers. And that means you have to have the best education system, and you have to be easy to get to. And where Idaho needs a lot more support is our transportation, where we're underfunded by hundreds of millions of dollars, and our education system. So how you reduce taxes and cut spending, but improve those two critical areas?
Yeah, what happened, look at Utah as the example. Utah did exactly what 25 years ago, exactly what I'm talking about. They decided to reduce their taxes, to reduce their regulations, and to let the government, get out of the way so businesses could thrive. What happened in Utah is that they started growing the jobs, they started growing the right kind of industries, and the economy started growing at a fast rate, and they were able to spend more money on education and infrastructure. I think you can't put the cart before the horse. You need to make sure that the economic environment in Idaho is such that these high-paying jobs will come to Idaho, because I think we have the right people here. We have great people in the state. We have a pretty good education system that we need to improve and make much better. But you need to do that by making sure that we have enough growth in the state so we can have those high-paying jobs that give you more taxes, and those taxes can then pay for better education and better roads. So I think if you start, right now we're already spending 60% of our state budget on education. We can't spend any more on education, but if you have a growing budget, if you have a growing economy, if you have more taxes coming to the state, then we can make further investments on education and roads.
Mark, thank you for the call. We continue on. Let's go to publisher of the Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob, with Congressman Labrador at KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Congressman. Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you both today? I guess doing fine.
Doing great. How are you doing, Bob?
Just terrific. I have a question. Idaho has a serious health care problem with over $2 billion being spent every year on these people. 20% of the population in Idaho are either on Medicaid or should be on Medicaid expansion, and I understand the legislative leaders are looking to move on Medicaid expansion during this next session. Our current sick care system focuses on prescriptions like opioids to fix medical problems, when the real problem is basic lifestyle changes in diet and exercise. Would you be bold enough to support real change in our system by giving people more choice in medical care through the use of integrative medicine for chronic pain and promote the institution of wellness programs for those on Medicaid to improve their overall health and bring them back to being productive citizens?
Absolutely. I think it's important for the state to look at all the different alternative forms of medicine and to give the citizens of Idaho the opportunity to use those different alternative forms of medicine. And I think we need to really look deeply at integrated medicine and all these other issues that I know you have spent a lot of time studying these issues and discussing them. And I think it's important that the state give every citizen an opportunity to do that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your answer.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Katie in Boise with Congressman Labrador at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Good. Hey, I just had a quick question. Congressman, did you know that you were going to run for governor when you ran re-election for your current position over there in D.C.? Because
I did not. I actually made the decision 4 months after I won my re-election.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Absolutely.
Do you plan on resigning the current post? Because as a taxpayer, I don't really appreciate paying salary when you're running a current election and then missing votes. I don't know. They kind of run together, and it doesn't seem like you can do one job while running for the other.
I think I'm doing both jobs very well. Obviously, you support somebody else in this race, and somebody put you up to this call. But I feel that I'm doing a good job. I've missed a few votes, but I have made 95% of my votes in Washington, D.C. I think the people of Idaho are pretty happy. If you look at my last election, I got 80% of the vote in the primary. I think they're pretty happy with the work that I'm doing, and it's the reason that I'm going to win this primary.
All right, Katie, thank you for the call. We appreciate that. We've covered that for quite some time. Congressman Labrador joining us here. You know, this is going to be a very historical race and a competitive race. And we take a look at this. You've got a lieutenant governor. You've got Dr. Ahlquist. You've got a sitting congressman. I don't know when the last time that has happened. As I've said on this show, you'll be replacing the Hulk Hogan of Idaho politics, Butch Otter, Governor Otter. So it's even though it's only January, you guys have been running at this for quite a long time.
Yeah, I actually think we have three good candidates in this race. I think, even though I disagree with my two opponents on a lot of the things that they say and a lot of their policy platforms and really where I think they want to take the state, I think we have three decent choices, and the people of Idaho really have an opportunity to decide what the future of Idaho is going to be. And I think they can decide, do they want more of the same? That's the lieutenant governor. Do they want somebody who just wants to take the state in a different direction, or do they want somebody who actually has a vision for the state where we can have a conservative future in the state where the economy thrives, where the economy is doing well, where the schools are doing better, and they have some good choices in the state, and they need to look at our background, they need to look at our experience, and they need to look at whether we have kept the promises that we made. You have one candidate in this race who seems to change his mind every other week about what he believes in and doesn't really know who he is. You have another candidate who's very good at telling people that he's just going to keep doing the things that the current governor has been doing. And with me, I want to reform the government so we put people first. And I think that's what the people of Idaho are looking for. And they're going to be able to have the opportunity to have this choice. And I think that's why this is such an exciting election.
And we go to an old friend, someone I'm sure you've seen in and around Eagle quite a bit. Our great friend Mark from Eagle joining us with Congressman Labrador on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you, Congressman, for being on the great station. I have met you a few times in the past in person. I want your thoughts on something. I've lived here in the great city of Eagle and a small business owner. I understand when you're not back there in D.C. doing business that your hometown residence is here in Eagle also.
It is.
During this past week, a national talk radio show host, which I shall not mention here, had stated that the Republican Party has gotten a black eye for not being a party that wants to. And first off, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I am a constitutionalist, so I want to get that out right now. I'm not a tree hugger, but the Republican Party has been painted as an anti-environment party. Basically, they don't care about the environment, is what was stated on that talk show. And where I'm going with this is right here in the state of Idaho, our Republican-controlled legislature and has decided to allow the Department of Lands, and right here in Eagle is a great example, to allow a company such as Alta Mesa to come in and do oil and gas explorations right next to subdivisions here in Eagle. And it's appalling that they would do that. It seems like what they've done out in the towns of Payette and west of town here, west of this county here, has not produced much revenue at all for the state of Idaho, and that we're being sold a bill of goods. And a number of our, I hate to say it, Republican legislators, including a person who I know personally who has yet had the courage to get back to me, and I'm going to put your name out there again, Mike Moyle, the head of the Republican state legislature, who totally denied that they were going to do fracking.
Sure, now we have limited time with the congressman, so your question quickly.
The fracking.
What about the fracking in Idaho?
Is why would they allow this in the state, and what is your feeling, sir, about this issue when we have plenty of stuff coming out of the Balkan regions up here in the Dakotas?
Okay, again, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the call.
Hey, Mark, thank you for the question. And I don't think the Republican Party is anti-environment. I think we all want clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. I do believe I don't have a problem with fracking. I don't know exactly what specific issue he's talking about fracking in Eagle. I know that there's been some questions about that in Eagle, but I think as long as the companies are following the rules and the regulations, we need to allow for opportunities. We need, a company like Alta Mesa has tried to make investments in Idaho, and we need to see if there are other opportunities for us to find alternative forms of fuel or even fuel in the state. We haven't had a lot of luck with that, but that would be a tremendous boon for the state if we were able to find something like that. But I understand his concern. I know that in Eagle there's been some concern about it, and I'd like to hear more from him.
Congressman, we've kept you over. Final thought here. Any thoughts on urban renewal? Anything else you'd like to share with us? Yes.
One of the things that my economic plan talks about is urban renewal. I think urban renewal has been actually abused in the past in the state of Idaho. And you have some projects like in Nampa and in other areas where the government has spent millions and millions of dollars for projects that they shouldn't have been spending money on. And what we want to do, I want to do a moratorium on urban renewal from the first day in office. And I want to make sure that I work with the Idaho legislature so we can use urban renewal as an economic tool so we can help the blighted economies, blighted areas grow, but not as a tool to make developers a bunch of money and to have money in their pocket.
Congressman Labrador, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Let's go to Max in Garden City, who's been very patient. Max, good morning.
Yes. I am the soul of patience. I would like to know where the congressman, I know he's probably already left, but I'd like to know where he stands on federal overreach, such as with the marijuana, and where he stands on sales tax on groceries. When you tax food, this hits the poor harder than it hits the rich. It's an inequitable tax. And as far as Jeff Sessions and his want to reach, it's federal overreach. Let the states pass their own drug laws. If those goofy Californians want to go out there and bump into each other all day in a haze, let them do it. We don't have to vote that way in Idaho, and we sure don't need Washington to reach her thumb in any more than she already has.
Fair enough.
That's all.
Thank you, Max.
No book plug, just a comment. Take care.
Right. Thank you. And let's get you to traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Let's go to Dr. Poole joining us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dr. Poole.
Good morning. I would like to see some addressing the health and welfare issues with the aging population that we have coming in. It's projected nationally to be about 80 million people here in another few years. And one of the things I see, I'm a dentist, and it's like walking into a third world country when you see these patients' mouths, the amount of decay and debris that's in there, the mouth being a portal to the body, creating inflammation, leading to high blood pressure, heart disease, and all other kind of entities. This is a major health situation that's hitting this population of people who have fought for our country and build our country. And it's something that needs to be addressed, and be interesting to see what Congressman Labrador has to say about that issue.
Well, Dr. Poole, we'll have to ask him that, or you can call in the next time he's on.
Right. I didn't realize he wasn't on. I was a little late getting to you this morning. But
well, it's okay.
Wow,
you staying out of trouble?
I keep trying, but it's amazing to walk into these facilities and see what goes on, and that's a big issue with the amount of regulations and what you can do and what you can't do to help these patients. So that's what I've got to say about that. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.
You bet. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Dr. Russ Poole joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Ray Maya, thank you as always. Appreciate you making the show what it is, an award winner. Thanks to Lars Larson, Congressman Labrador, and you. May you have a great day. May God bless you and your family, and keep the faith.